The thunder outside shook the entire apartment building, but it wasn't as loud as the pounding of my heart against my ribs. Boom, boom, boom. 3 heavy knocks on my front door. I froze. I looked at the digital clock on my microwave. 8:15 p.m. Exactly 15 minutes since I sent that text. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. It couldn't be him. It wasn't possible. He lives in the most expensive district in Seoul, and I live here, 30 minutes away in traffic. Boom. Boom. Josephine. Open the door. The voice was low, deep, and smooth like dark chocolate wrapped in sandpaper. It wasn't my boyfriend, Clements. Clements had a high-pitched whine when he wanted something. This voice belonged to a man who commanded rooms, destroyed companies, and apparently drove like a maniac to get to his assistant's house. I swallowed the lump in my throat and unlocked the deadbolt. My fingers felt like ice. I opened the door. Lightning flashed behind him, illuminating the silhouette of a monster. But God, he was a beautiful monster. Gwak Ga-ram stood on my welcome mat. He wasn't wearing his usual gray office suit. Tonight, he was wearing a sharp, midnight blue suit that looked like it cost more than my entire college tuition. The color made his skin look like porcelain, and his eyes were dark, hungry pits. Rainwater dripped from his jet black hair, running down his sharp jawline and soaking into the collar of his white shirt. He didn't smile. He didn't say hello. He just looked at me. He looked at my silk robe, down to my bare legs, and back up to my eyes. The intensity of his stare felt like a physical touch. "You said 20 minutes, he said, his voice rough. I made it in 15. I couldn't breathe. My boss, the CEO of G-Corp, the man everyone whispered was actually the head of the Seven Star Syndicate. He was at my door. Because I was an idiot. If you have ever made a mistake that you thought would end your life, do me a favor and hit that like button right now, because I need to know I'm not the only one who has messed up this bad. Let me tell you how I ended up facing a wet, angry Korean mafia boss in my hallway. It started 40 minutes ago. I was sitting on my couch, staring at my phone. I had rushed home from work, used my Dyson Airwrap to curl my hair perfectly, and put on this expensive silk robe I bought from a targeted ad on Instagram. I had set the table. I had lit the candles. And then the text came in from Clements. "Yo, babe. Sorry. Boys' night. Gonna happen. Catch you later." Yo, babe. We had been dating for 2 years. 2 years of me paying half his rent. 2 years of me listening to his failed crypto schemes. 2 years of me waiting. My cycle tracking app, Flow, had sent me a notification that morning. Peak fertility window. I'm 29. I want a baby. I want a family. I didn't just want a hookup, I wanted a connection. And Clements knew that. He knew tonight was important. And he blew me off to play video games with his friends. I felt something snap inside me. It was like a rubber band stretching and stretching until pop. I grabbed the bottle of wine on the counter. I poured a glass and downed it. Then I poured another. The anger was hot in my chest. He thinks he can just ignore me? I muttered to the empty room. He thinks I'm just going to sit here and wait? I picked up my phone. My thumbs flew across the screen. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to make him jealous. I wanted to make him realize what he was missing. I typed, "I don't care about your boys. My app says I'm ovulating right now. If you want this, get here in 20 minutes." I didn't even proofread it. I was so mad I was seeing red. I went to my recents list. I saw the contact starting with C, or at least I thought I did. My boss, Chairman Gwak, was right next to Clements because I had texted him the final meeting minutes just before leaving the office. I tapped. I hit send. I threw the phone on the couch and crossed my arms, feeling triumphant. That will show him. He'll be running over here. A ping. I picked up the phone, expecting a begging apology from Clements. It wasn't Clements. The name at the top of the chat was Chairman Gwak. And right under my text about ovulating, there was a tiny, gray receipt that turned into 2 blue check marks. Read. My heart stopped. Literally. I think it skipped 3 beats. No, I whispered. No, no, no. I tapped the screen frantically. Delete for everyone. Delete for everyone. But the message stayed. And then, 3 little dots appeared. He was typing. Then the typing stopped. He didn't reply. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes. I paced the floor. I thought about packing a bag and moving to Mexico. I thought about faking my own death. I searched Google for how to explain an accidental sex to your boss, but even the AI chatbots didn't have a good answer for this one. Then, the knock came. And now, here we are. Back in the doorway. Rain blowing in. "Sir," I squeaked. My voice was an octave higher than usual. I can explain." Ga-ram didn't wait for the explanation. He took a step forward. He forced me to step back. He walked into my apartment like he owned the building. He kicked the door shut behind him with his heel. Click. The lock engaged. The sound echoed in the small room. The air suddenly felt very thin. He smelled like rain, expensive leather, and something spicy, maybe sandalwood. It was intoxicating. "Explain," he said. He didn't look at me. He was scanning my apartment. His dark eyes darted to the table set for 2. The candles. The single wine glass. "It was a mistake," I said, clutching the lapels of my robe together. My heart was hammering against my chest so hard I thought he could hear it. I meant to send that to someone else." Ga-ram stopped moving. He turned slowly to face me. The look on his face was unreadable. It wasn't anger. It was something colder. Something more dangerous. "Someone else," he repeated. He took a step toward me. "Yes. My boyfriend. Clemens." Ga-ram let out a short, dry laugh. It wasn't a happy sound. "The boyfriend." He looked at the empty chair opposite mine. "So where is he?" "You gave a 20-minute deadline. It has been 17 minutes. I bit my lip. He's not coming." Ga-ram tilted his head. The water from his hair dripped onto the shoulder of his midnight blue suit. "He is not coming?" He took another step. He was in my personal space now. He towered over me. I had to crane my neck to look up at him. I had worked for him for 8 months. I knew he was intimidating. I had seen him make grown men cry in boardrooms just by staring at them. But this was different. This wasn't Boss Gwak. This was a man. A predator. "You sent a text saying you were fertile," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper on the last word. "And he is not breaking down your door?" "He's busy," I whispered, looking down at his expensive leather shoes. "With his friends." Silence. Heavy, thick silence. Then Ga-ram's hand moved. I flinched, expecting. I don't know what I expected. But his hand came up and gently, so gently it was terrifying, tilted my chin up. His fingers were warm and rough. "Look at me, Josephine." I looked. His eyes were burning. "He does not deserve you," Ga-ram said. If I received that text, nothing on this earth would have stopped me. My breath hitched. "Sir." "Don't call me sir," he murmured. His thumb brushed against my bottom lip. I trembled. "Not tonight. Tonight, I am not your boss." "Then, who are you?" The man who answered. I felt weak in the knees. This was wrong. This was so unprofessional. But God, the way he looked at me made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. Clemens never looked at me like that. Clemens looked at me like I was a convenience. Ga-ram looked at me like I was a necessity. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. He pulled his hand away and looked at the door. "Is he coming later?" Ga-ram asked, his voice hardening back into steel. "I don't know. Probably not." "Does he have a key?" "Yes." Ga-ram frowned. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. It wasn't a normal iPhone, it was one of those encrypted devices, sleek and black. "BMSU," he said into the phone. "I'm at the location." "Yes." "Secure the perimeter. No one comes up unless I say so. And if a man named Clemens arrives, let him through. I want to have a word with him." He hung up and slipped the phone back into his pocket. "Sir, Ga-ram, what are you doing?" I asked, panic rising again. "You can't be here. If he comes here and sees you, let him see," Ga-ram said smoothly. He unbuttoned his suit jacket. Underneath, he wore a white dress shirt that clung to his chest. He looked powerful, dangerous. I want him to see. I want him to know that while he was playing games with boys, a man was taking his place. "Taking his place?" I squeaked. Ga-ram walked over to the dining table. He picked up the wine bottle. He poured a splash into the empty glass, Clement's glass. "You want a baby, Josephine?" he asked, swirling the wine. I choked on air. That text was. "You want a family," he corrected, turning to look at me. "I did a background check on you when I hired you. I know you support your mother. I know you want stability. I know you track your health with Ovia and take supplements because you are preparing your body. You know that?" "I know everything about the things I value," he said. He took a sip of the wine, his eyes never leaving mine. "And I value you." He set the glass down. "So here is the situation," he said, walking back toward me. "Your boyfriend is a fool. He leaves you alone on a night when you need attention." He stopped inches from me. The heat coming off his body was overwhelming. "I am offering a trade." "A trade?" I whispered. "Leave him," Ga-ram said. "Tonight. Break it off. Give me the key back. And in exchange." He leaned down, his lips brushing against the shell of my ear. I shivered violently. "In exchange, I will give you everything he can't. The stability, the care, the family." My eyes widened. Are you proposing a contract?" He pulled back, searching my face. "Call it an investment. I need an heir. You need a father who shows up. We are compatible." "Compatible?" I laughed nervously. "Sir, you're a billionaire. I'm your assistant. We live in different worlds." "Worlds collide," he said softly. "I have been watching you, Josephine. For months. I see how you handle the office. You are strong. You are loyal. And you are beautiful in a way that makes it very hard for me to concentrate on spreadsheets." He reached out and touched a curl of my hair. "When I got that text," he said, his voice rough again, "I was in a meeting with the Minister of Defense. I walked out. I didn't think. I just drove." I stared at him. He walked out of a meeting with the government, for me? "Why?" I asked. "Because," he said, his gaze dropping to my lips. "For 6 months, I have imagined what it would be like to be the one you are waiting for." Before I could process that bombshell, there was a noise from the hallway. Thump, thump, scrape. Someone was fumbling with keys at the door. "Babe?" A slurried voice came through the wood. "Yo, Josie? The keys stuck." "Clements." My stomach dropped. He was drunk. He actually came. I looked at Ga-ram. I expected him to look worried. I expected him to hide in the closet or the bathroom. Instead, a slow, terrifying smirk spread across Ga-ram's face. He looked like a wolf who just realized the sheep walked into the den willingly. He adjusted his midnight blue cuffs. He checked his watch, a Rolex that gleamed in the candlelight. "Right on time," Ga-ram whispered. "Don't kill him," I whispered frantically, grabbing Ga-ram's arm. His bicep was hard as a rock under the suit fabric. "Please, Ga-ram, no violence." Ga-ram looked at my hand on his arm. He covered my hand with his own. "Violence is for people who lack imagination, Josephine," he said smoothly. "I don't need to lift a finger to destroy a man like him." The lock clicked. The doorknob turned. The door swung open. Clements stumbled in. He was wearing a baggy hoodie and ripped jeans. He smelled like cheap beer and stale nachos. He blinked, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. "Yo, babe, I saw your text and I thought, whoa." Clements stopped. He stared at the man standing in the middle of my living room. Ga-ram turned slowly. He didn't look like a boss now. He looked like a king. He stood with his hands in his pockets, his posture perfect, his blue suit immaculate despite the rain. The contrast between him and Clements was painful. It was like a diamond next to a piece of gravel. "Who the hell are you?" Clements demanded, trying to puff out his chest. Ga-ram didn't answer immediately. He looked Clements up and down with an expression of pure disgust. "I am the man who showed up," Ga-ram said calmly. "While you were with the boys." "Is this the guy?" Clements pointed a shaking finger at me. "You're cheating on me, Josie? With this suit." "She isn't cheating," Ga-ram said, his voice dropping an octave. "She is upgrading." Clements stepped forward, his face turning red. "Get out of my house, man. I pay." "Well, I live here." "Actually," Ga-ram said, pulling his phone out again. "BMSU?" "Yes." "Execute the purchase." He tapped the screen once. "Purchase Clements asked, confused. Purchase what? Ga-ram looked at me, then back at Clements. I just bought this building, Ga-ram said, as casually as if he was saying he bought a coffee. This entire apartment complex. It belongs to G-Corp now. He put the phone away. Which means Ga-ram stepped closer to Clements, forcing the other man to shrink back. You are trespassing on private property. And I have zero tolerance for trespassers. Clements looked at me, his jaw on the floor. Josie, is he serious? I looked at Ga-ram. I knew he was crazy wealthy, but buying the building? In 10 seconds? He's serious, Clements, I whispered. You have 2 minutes to gather your things, Ga-ram said, checking his Rolex again. After that, my security team, who are waiting at the bottom of the stairs, will assist you. And BMSU can be very enthusiastic with his assistance. Clements looked at Ga-ram's eyes. He saw the darkness there. He saw the mafia edge that Ga-ram usually hid behind his CEO smile. Clements didn't fight. He didn't argue. He looked at me one last time, saw the way I was standing next to Ga-ram, and he folded. Fine, Clements muttered. You're crazy, Josie. He's crazy. He grabbed his Xbox controller from the table and ran out the door. I watched him go. I felt relief. Huge, washing relief. Ga-ram walked over to the door and shut it firmly. He locked it again. Then he turned to me. The dangerous energy was still there, but it was focused on me now. Now, Ga-ram said, loosening his tie. Where were we? The question hung in the air, heavy and thick like smoke. Ga-ram wasn't looking at the door where Clements had just disappeared. He was looking at me. His gaze was physical, tracing the line of my throat down to where the silk robe crossed over my chest. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. You just bought my building. I did, he replied, his voice calm. He stepped closer. The heat radiating off him was making me dizzy. It was a distressed asset. A smart investment. You evicted my boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend, he corrected sharply. He reached out, his hand hovering near my face before his knuckles grazed my cheekbone. His skin was rough, calloused, the hands of a fighter hidden inside the suit of a CEO. And I did not evict him. I simply removed a pest that was infesting my property. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Boom, boom, boom. I should be angry. I should be terrified. This man was dangerous. He wielded money like a weapon and treated the law like a suggestion. But looking up at him, seeing the dark intensity in his eyes that was focused entirely on me, I didn't feel fear. I felt safe. For the first time in 2 years, I felt completely protected. You can't stay here tonight, Ga-ram said, his thumb brushing my lower lip. The sensation sent a jolt of electricity straight to my core. Why? I whispered. Because Clements is a fool, but fools are unpredictable when their pride is wounded. He might come back with a bat. Or a gun. Ga-ram's eyes darkened, turning into black pools. And if he comes back and I am here, I will kill him. And I do not want you to see that, Josephine. I want to keep your hands clean. He pulled away, checking his Rolex again. Pack a bag. Essentials only. You are coming with me. With you. To the penthouse, he said. My security is better. And the water pressure is significantly higher. I didn't argue. I walked into my bedroom in a daze. I grabbed my overnight bag, a battered Louis Vuitton duffel I'd bought secondhand years ago. I threw in my work clothes for tomorrow, my makeup bag, my vitamins, and the bottle of expensive retinol serum I couldn't sleep without. My hands were shaking as I zipped it up. When I walked back out, Ga-ram was standing by the door, speaking Korean into his encrypted phone. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw me. He took the bag from my hand without asking. Let's go. We walked down the stairs. The rain was still pouring outside, a curtain of silver in the streetlights. Parked right in front of the entrance, illegally, of course, was a sleek, black Mercedes Maybach. It looked like a spaceship that had landed in my gritty neighborhood. A man jumped out from the driver's side. He was shorter than Ga-ram, with a buzz cut and a suit that looked like it was struggling to contain his muscles. Boss, the man said, bowing slightly. He looked at me, his eyes widening. Miss Stowell. BMSU, Ga-ram said, handing him my bag. Open the door for her. BMSU grinned, a mischievous glint in his eyes. So, we actually did it? We kidnapped the assistant? I owe Minjun $50. I bet him we wouldn't do it until Christmas. BMSU, Ga-ram warned, his voice low. Drive. Yes, boss. I slid into the back seat. The interior smelled like new leather and Ga-ram's sandalwood cologne. The seats were heated. There was a mini fridge with sparkling water. It was quiet, the heavy doors shut out the sound of the rain and the city completely. It was like entering a vault. Ga-ram slid in next to me. He didn't sit far away. His thigh pressed against mine. The contact burned through the thin silk of my robe. Where are we going? I asked as the car glided away from the curb. Hanamdong, he said. The UN village. Of course. The most exclusive, secure neighborhood in Seoul. The ride was silent, but the air between us was crackling with tension. I couldn't stop looking at his hands resting on his knees. Strong hands. Capable hands. Hands that had just rewritten my entire life in 20 minutes. Why? I asked softly, breaking the silence. Ga-ram turned to look at me. The passing streetlights cast shadows across his sharp cheekbones. Why what? Why me? You could have anyone. You're you. He shifted, turning his body fully toward me. Do you remember last month? When the merger with T-Tech was failing? When the lawyers were screaming and the board was panicking? I nodded. I stayed up for 48 hours reorganizing the files. You didn't just reorganize, he said softly. You walked into my office at 3 a.m. You put a cup of ginseng tea on my desk. And you told me, stop worrying. You're smarter than them. Just crush them. He reached out, tucking a loose curl of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered on my neck. No one tells me to stop worrying, Josephine. Everyone looks to me for the answers. You were the only one who looked at me and saw a man who was tired. He leaned in closer. I could feel his breath on my cheek. That was the night I knew, he whispered, that I didn't just want an assistant. I wanted a partner. The car slowed to a halt before I could respond. We were in front of a massive glass and steel structure that looked more like a fortress than a home. BMSU opened the door. We're home, lovebirds. Try not to break anything. Ga-ram shot him a look that could strip paint, and BMSU mimed, sipping his lips. We took a private elevator up to the top floor. When the doors opened, my jaw dropped. The penthouse was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the Han River, the city lights reflecting off the black water. The floors were polished marble. The furniture was modern, Italian, and clearly cost more than my life insurance policy. But it was cold. It was pristine, like a museum where no one lived. It's big, I managed to say. It's empty, Ga-ram corrected. He walked in, tossing his jacket onto a chair. He loosened his tie, pulling it from his collar. I am never here. I work. I sleep. I repeat. He turned to me. Hungry. A little. Sit. I sat on a high stool at the kitchen island, clutching my robe. I watched as the most powerful man in the city rolled up his white sleeves, revealing muscular forearms veined with strength. He opened the massive fridge. He pulled out eggs, scallions, and a container of kimchi. You cook? I asked, surprised. My mother taught me, he said, cracking an egg with one hand. She said a man who cannot feed himself is useless. He moved around the kitchen with the same efficiency he used in the boardroom. Chop. Sizzle. Flip. In 10 minutes, he placed a steaming bowl of kimchi fried rice in front of me. It smelled heavenly. I took a bite. It was spicy, savory, and perfect. This is amazing, I groaned, closing my eyes. Good, he said. He wasn't eating. He was leaning against the counter, watching me eat with that same predatory intensity. He poured himself a glass of whiskey. Eat up, he said softly. You need your strength. I choked on a piece of rice. Strength for what? His lips quivered into a smirk. For dealing with me. After dinner, he led me down a long hallway. This is the master suite, he said, pointing to double doors at the end. I sleep there. He stopped at a door to the right. This is the guest suite. It is yours. He opened the door. I walked in and gasped. It wasn't just a guest room. It was prepared. On the bed, There were silk pajamas, my size. On the vanity, there was a set of La Mer skincare products, the exact ones I had saved in my Sephora cart but never bought because they were too expensive. There were fresh flowers, peonies, my favorite, on the nightstand. I turned to him, wide-eyed. How long? How long is it? How long have you had this room ready? Ga-ram leaned against the doorframe. He looked tired now, the adrenaline fading, leaving behind a raw vulnerability. 3 months, he admitted quietly. I told myself it was for visiting dignitaries. But I will never let anyone stay here. He stepped into the room. The space suddenly felt very small. I bought the pajamas last week, he murmured, looking down at me. I saw you looking at them online during your lunch break. The monitoring software on the company server. It flags certain activities. You spy on my shopping? I pay attention to your desires. He reached out, his hand grasping my waist. He pulled me in, just an inch. My chest bumped against his. I could feel the heat of his body through his thin shirt. Josephine, he breathed. His voice was rough, strained. You have no idea how hard it has been. Sitting across from you every day. Watching you answer calls for that idiot Clements. Hearing you sigh when you thought no one was listening. Ga-ram. I wanted to steal you, he confessed, his forehead resting against mine. Every single day. I wanted to drag you out of that cubicle and lock you in here and keep you for myself. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might pass out. The tension was unbearable. I wanted him to kiss me. I wanted him to claim me. My body was humming, remembering the text I had sent. Ovulating. He knew. He knew exactly what my body was doing right now. He pulled back slightly, his dark eyes searching mine. But I won't, he said, his voice straining with control. Not tonight. You are vulnerable. You just ended a relationship. You are emotional. He stepped back, his hands leaving my waist. The loss of his touch was a physical ache. I don't want a rebound, Josephine, he said firmly. I want forever. And I will wait until you are clear-headed enough to give it to me. He turned and walked to the door. Sleep well, he said. We have work tomorrow. He closed the door. I stood there in the silence, surrounded by expensive creams and silk, my body burning, my mind reeling. I touched my lips where he almost kissed me. Clements was gone. And I was living with the dragon. The next morning, sunlight hit me like a slap in the face. I groaned, rolling over in the massive bed. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, smooth and cool against my skin. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. Then I saw the view of the Han River and remembered everything. The eviction. The Maybach. Fried rice. I jumped out of bed. Work. I was still his assistant. I couldn't be late. I showered in a bathroom that was bigger than my old living room. I used the La Mer cream, my skin felt like a baby's bottom instantly. I put on the fresh clothes from my bag. When I walked out into the living area, the smell of coffee hit me. Not generic office sludge. Rich, freshly ground espresso. Ga-ram was standing by the window on the phone. He had changed. Gone was the midnight blue. Today, he was wearing a suit of deep, blood-red burgundy. It was a bold, aggressive color. The color of power. The color of wine. It fit him perfectly. He turned when he heard me. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened at the corners. Coffee, he said, pointing to a cup on the island. Black. 2 sugars. Just how you like it. I picked up the cup. Good morning, sir. I mean, Ga-ram. BMSU is waiting downstairs with the car, he said, putting his phone away. Drink up. We have a board meeting at 10. And we have a problem. A problem? My text message, he said calmly. To the building manager about evicting Clements. It seems the gossip has already started. They are saying I bought a building for my mistress. My face burned. Mistress? Ga-ram walked over to me. He adjusted the collar of my blouse, his fingers brushing my neck. Let them talk, he whispered. By the end of the week, they won't be calling you my mistress. What will they be calling me? He leaned down, his lips grazing my ear. My queen. The drive to G-Corp headquarters was silent, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the silence of a bomb ticking down. BMSU kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, grinning like he knew a secret. Ga-ram sat next to me, typing furiously on his tablet, but his knee was pressed firmly against mine. Every time the car turned, the pressure increased, a constant reminder that he was right there. When we pulled up to the glass tower, the paparazzi were already there. Flashes went off like strobe lights. Click, click, click. Keep your head up, Ga-ram said, his voice low. Do not look at them. Look at me. BM-soo opened the door. Ga-ram got out first. He buttoned his burgundy suit jacket, the color deep and rich like spilled wine. He turned and offered me his hand. It was a simple gesture. But in front of 50 cameras, it was a declaration of war. I hesitated. If I took his hand, there was no going back. Josephine, he murmured. Trust me. I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and possessive. He pulled me out of the car and tucked my hand into the crook of his arm. We walked through the gauntlet of cameras. Chairman Gwak. Is it true? Who is she? Is the merger still on? Ga-ram ignored them all. He walked us through the revolving doors and into the cool, silent lobby of G-Corp. The moment we entered, the atmosphere shifted. The employees, receptionists, security guards, junior execs all froze. They bowed deeply as Ga-ram passed. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, sir. Usually, I walked 5 steps behind him, carrying his coffee and his iPad. Today, I was on his arm. I could feel the eyes burning into my back. The whispers started immediately. Is that the assistant? Why is she wearing? Is that Chanel? Did you see the way he's looking at her? We reached the elevator. Ga-ram scanned his badge. The doors slid shut, cutting off the whispers. He released my arm, but he didn't move away. He turned to face me in the small metal box. Are you okay? He asked. Everyone is staring, I whispered. Let them stare, he said. They have never seen me bring my future into the building before. The elevator dinged at the top floor. The executive suite. This was my domain. Or it used to be. My desk was right outside his massive double doors. Usually, I would sit there, answering phones and filtering his emails. But today, Ga-ram stopped at my desk. BM-soo, he called out. BM-soo appeared from the stairwell. He never took elevators, said they were death traps. Boss? Move Ms. Stowell's desk, Ga-ram said calmly. Move it? I asked. Where? Ga-ram pointed to the double doors of his office. Inside. Inside your office? I gasped. But that's highly irregular. HR will have a heart attack. I own HR, Ga-ram said. And I do not want you out here. Not today. Why? His eyes darkened. Because Choi Duri is coming for a meeting at 11. My stomach dropped. Choi Duri, the heiress of Choi Heavy Industries. She was beautiful, ruthless, and terrifying. Rumor had it she had been trying to marry Ga-ram for 3 years to merge their family empires. She treated the office staff like furniture. She hates me, I whispered. She is jealous of you, Ga-ram corrected. And today, she will have a reason to be. By 11 a.m., my desk had been moved into the corner of Ga-ram's massive office. It was awkward. I tried to type quietly while he took calls on the other side of the room. But every time I looked up, he was watching me. He wasn't working. He was spinning a pen in his fingers, just staring at me with that intense, hungry look. Knock. Knock. The heavy oak doors swung open without an invitation. Choi Duri walked in. She was stunning. She wore a white pantsuit that looked like it was tailored by angels. Her hair was sleek, black, and straight. Her lips were painted a vicious shade of red. Ga-ram, she purred, walking straight to his desk. She ignored me completely. We need to talk about the shipping routes in Busan. Ga-ram didn't stand up. He leaned back in his leather chair, looking bored. Hello, Duri. You look expensive. She laughed, a tinkling, fake sound. Only the best for my future partner. She sat on the edge of his desk, crossing her legs. I heard a rumor, darling. They say you bought a rundown apartment building in the slums last night. Are we pivoting to charity work? Ga-ram smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a personal acquisition. Personal. She frowned. Then, for the first time, she turned her head and saw me sitting in the corner. Her eyes narrowed into slits. Why is she in here? Duri asked, her voice dropping the sweet act instantly. I thought we discussed confidentiality. Josephine is essential, Ga-ram said. Duri slid off the desk. She walked toward me, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. She stopped in front of my desk and looked down at me like I was a stain on the rug. Coffee, she snapped. Black. No sugar. And hurry up, I have a schedule. I froze. My instinct was to jump up and get it. I had been getting her coffee for months. I started to stand. Yes, Miss Choi, I'll just… Sit down. Ga-ram's voice cracked through the room like a whip. I froze halfway out of my chair. Duri spun around to face him. Excuse me, she said. Ga-ram stood up. He walked around his desk slowly. The burgundy suit seemed to absorb the light in the room. He moved like a panther stalking a gazelle. Josephine does not fetch coffee anymore, Ga-ram said quietly. She's an assistant, Duri scoffed. That's what they do. She is my assistant, Ga-ram said, stopping inches from Duri. He towered over her. And her hands are busy with more important things than serving you. Duri's face turned pink. Ga-ram, stop playing games. You're embarrassing yourself. Bringing this, nobody into our inner circle. She turned back to me sneering. Look at her. She's trembling. She doesn't belong here, Ga-ram. She belongs in the mailroom. Or better yet, back in whatever ghetto you plucked her from. The air left the room. I felt tears prick my eyes. It hit my insecurity perfectly. I didn't belong here. Ga-ram didn't yell. He didn't hit her. He just laughed. It was a low, dark sound that made the hair on my arm stand up. Duri, he said softly. You have always been bad at assessing value. He walked past her and came to stand behind my chair. He placed his hands on my shoulders. His grip was heavy, grounding. He squeezed, sending a wave of warmth through me. You look at her and see an employee, Ga-ram said, looking Duri dead in the eye. I look at her and see the only person in this building I trust with my life. Duri rolled her eyes. Oh please. You're sleeping with her. That's all this is. A little fling before the merger. Ga-ram leaned down. His cheek brushed against my hair. He spoke directly into my ear, but loud enough for her to hear. Be careful, Duri, he whispered. The menace in his voice was palpable. You are speaking to the future mother of my children. Duri gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. I stopped breathing. Future mother of my children? He said it. Out loud. In front of the rival. You're insane, Duri hissed. You're going to throw away the merger? The empire? For her. I can build 1,000 empires, Ga-ram said, his eyes cold as ice. But there is only one of her. He pointed to the door. Get out. Duri stared at him. She looked at his hands on my shoulders. She realized in that moment that she had lost. She gathered her dignity, straightened her white jacket, and glared at me. This isn't over, she spat. You think you've won the lottery, honey? You just put a target on your back. She spun on her heel and stormed out, slamming the heavy doors behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. Ga-ram didn't let go of my shoulders. He spun my chair around so I was facing him. Are you all right? He asked, his voice gentle again. You told her. I stammered. About the children. I told her the truth, he said. He crouched down so he was eye level with me. He took my shaking hands in his. But the target, I whispered. She said I have a target on my back. You have always had a target, Ga-ram said. Because you are beautiful. Because you are kind. The world tries to break soft things, Josephine. He kissed my knuckles, one by one. But now you have a shield. He stood up, pulling me with him. Come. Work is finished for today. But it's only noon, I protested. I have emails. Cancel them, he said. We have an appointment. Appointment? With who? With a dressmaker, he said, checking his watch. Tonight is the Foundation Gala. And I intend to introduce you to society properly. Gala? I panicked. I don't have anything to wear. My best dress is from Zara. Ga-ram smirked. Josephine. You are with me now. You will never wear Zara again unless you want to. He hit the intercom button on his desk. BM Sue. Bring the car around. We are going shopping. The boutique was not a store. It was a palace of silk and tulle. There were no price tags. The attendants offered us champagne the moment we walked in. Ga-ram sat on a velvet sofa, sipping his drink, looking like a king surveying his kingdom. "Show me everything in emerald," he commanded the staff. "And gold. Colors that look good on her skin." I spent the next 2 hours being poked, prodded, and draped in fabric. Finally, I stepped out in the dress. It was a floor-length gown of shimmering gold silk. It hugged every curve of my body like liquid metal. It had a slit up the leg that was scandalously high and a back that plunged dangerously low. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I looked powerful. I walked out of the dressing room. Ga-ram looked up from his phone. He froze. His glass of champagne paused halfway to his mouth. He stood up slowly. He walked toward me, his eyes devouring me. He didn't say a word. He just walked a circle around me, inspecting every inch. He stopped behind me. His reflection appeared in the mirror over my shoulder. The burgundy of his suit clashed beautifully with the gold of my dress. Fire and gold. "BMSU," he said, without looking away from my reflection. "Yeah, boss." BMSU called from the waiting area where he was eating free macaroons. "Buy it," Ga-ram whispered. "And buy the store. I don't want anyone else wearing this designer ever again." "Sir, you can't buy the store," I laughed nervously. "That's excessive." Ga-ram met my eyes in the mirror. His expression was dead serious. "Excessive is my middle name, Josephine." He leaned in, his breath tickling my neck. "Tonight," he whispered, "you will outshine every star in the sky. And Duri will choke on her jealousy." I shivered. "Ready?" he asked. "I think so." "Good. Because the real test begins now." The grand ballroom of the Shilla Hotel smelled like money. It wasn't a specific scent, exactly, more like a mixture of vintage Dom Perignon, fresh orchids imported from Holland, and the distinct, crisp ozone of power. The moment we stepped out of the Maybach, the noise hit us. It wasn't loud, like a club. It was a low, thrumming hum of hundreds of people whispering, negotiating, and judging. Ga-ram tightened his grip on my waist. His hand was warm against the bare skin of my back, thanks to the plunging design of the gold dress. "Breathe," he whispered against my temple. "You are gripping your clutch like you are going to use it as a weapon." I muttered, trying to keep my smile fixed. "Duri is staring at me from the balcony. If looks could kill, I'd be a pile of ash right now." Ga-ram didn't look up. He didn't need to. He guided me through the massive gilded doors with the confidence of a man who owned the building, the land it stood on, and probably half the people inside. "Let her stare," he said calmly. "Jealousy is an ugly cologne, and she is bathed in it." We moved through the crowd. It was like parting the Red Sea. Men in tuxedos bowed respectfully. Women in couture gowns assessed me with sharp, calculating eyes. I heard the whispers ripple around us. "Who is she? Is that the assistant? Look at the dress. Is that custom? He's never brought a date before." I felt like an imposter. I wanted to shrink. I kept thinking about my apartment, my overdraft fees, and the fact that just 24 hours ago, I was crying over a man who played Call of Duty while I was ovulating. But then I looked at Ga-ram. He was in his element. The burgundy suit was a stroke of genius. In a sea of black and gray penguins, he was a splash of blood. He looked dangerous and regal. And every time someone tried to stop him for a handshake, he kept one hand firmly on me, anchoring me to him. Chairman Gwak, a heavy-set man with a cigar, approached us. "Excellent quarter for G-Corp." The shipping logistics AI integration was brilliant. "Thank you, Councilman," Ga-ram said smoothly. "May I introduce my partner, Ms. Josephine Stowell?" "Partner. Not an assistant. Not date. Partner." The councilman's eyes widened slightly, but he bowed to me. "Ms. Stowell." "Charmed." "The pleasure is mine," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Ga-ram squeezed my waist approvingly. We moved deeper into the room. Waiters floated by with trays of caviar and crystal flutes. Ga-ram grabbed 2 glasses of sparkling water. He knew I wasn't drinking alcohol tonight, just in case the text became reality later. "You are doing perfectly," he murmured, handing me the glass. "I feel like I'm going to throw up," I admitted. "Don't. This dress is silk, it stains easily." I laughed, startling myself. He smirked. "There she is," he said softly. That smile. That is the most dangerous weapon in this room. Just then, BMSU appeared at Ga-ram's elbow. He was wearing a tuxedo that looked a size too tight across the shoulders, and he looked uncomfortable. Boss, BMSU said, keeping his voice low. The minister is asking for you in the VIP lounge. It's about the Port Authority deal. He says it's urgent. Ga-ram frowned. Tell him I am occupied. He says it will take 5 minutes, BMSU pressed. And he has the permits ready to sign. Ga-ram sighed. He looked at me torn. Josephine. Go, I said, putting on a brave face. It's business. I'll be fine. I do not like leaving you alone. I'm a big girl, Ga-ram. I can stand here and look mysterious for 5 minutes. He hesitated. He reached up and touched my cheek, ignoring the hundreds of people watching. 5 minutes. Stay with BMSU. I'll guard her with my life, boss, BMSU said, puffing out his chest. I won't even blink. Ga-ram nodded and disappeared into the crowd toward the VIP section. I stood there, sipping my water, feeling the absence of his heat immediately. BMSU stood next to me, scanning the room like a hawk. So, BMSU said out of the side of his mouth. You and the boss, huh? Finally. I blushed. Is it that obvious? Ms. Stowell, the man has been buying your favorite brand of oat milk for the office kitchen for 6 months. He drinks black coffee. We all knew. I smiled, looking down at my glass. That was sweet. Oh, excuse me, miss. A waiter stumbled, tipping a tray of drinks. BMSU lunged forward to catch a falling glass before it hit an older lady. It happened in a split second. BMSU moved 3 feet away. Josephine. The voice was soft, feminine, and familiar. I turned around. Choi Duri was standing there. She wasn't scowling. She wasn't yelling. She looked sad. She was holding a small clutch and looking at me with big, pitying eyes. Ms. Choi, I said, straightening my spine. If you're here to insult me again. No, she said quickly, raising a hand. I came to apologize. I was rude earlier. I was emotional. I blinked. That wasn't what I expected. Oh, well, apology accepted. She stepped closer. Can we talk? Privately? Just for a moment? I feel terrible causing a scene in the office. I glanced at BMSU. He was still apologizing to the older lady and helping the waiter. I really shouldn't leave, I said. Just to the ladies' room? Duri pointed to the marble archway 10 feet away. I just want to fix my lipstick and clear the air. Please. Woman to woman. Woman to woman. That phrase always got me. I nodded. Okay. 1 minute. I walked toward the bathroom. Duri followed. The ladies' room was nicer than my apartment. It had velvet settees, gold mirrors, and an attendant handing out hot towels. It was empty except for us. Duri walked to the mirror and opened her clutch. She didn't take out lipstick. She took out a folded piece of paper. You look beautiful tonight, she said, watching me in the mirror. That dress. Gold really is your color. Thank you, I said guardedly. It's a shame, she sighed. It's a shame he's doing this to you. Doing what? Duri turned around. The pity in her eyes deepened. Oh, honey. You really don't know, do you? You actually think this is a fairy tale. My stomach tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Ga-ram needs an heir, she said softly. The syndicate, the board. They are pressuring him. If he doesn't have a child within the year, he loses control of the chairmanship. It's in his father's will. She held out the paper. He didn't choose you because he loves you, Josephine. He chose you because you tracked your ovulation on the company Wi-Fi. The world stopped. What? I whispered. He monitored your data, Duri said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. He saw you were desperate for a baby. He saw you were vulnerable with a loser boyfriend. He knew you were the perfect candidate. A clean background, healthy, desperate for family, and easily discarded once the heir is born. You're lying, I said, backing away. He said he's wanted me for months. He's a businessman, Duri said, thrusting the paper at me. Look at this. It's a draft of the NDA he's going to make you sign tomorrow. I looked at the paper. It was legal jargon, but phrases jumped out at me. Surrogacy agreement, transfer of custody, mother waives all rights, Financial compensation of $5 million. He was going to offer me the same deal, Doree lied smoothly. But I refused to be a broodmare. So he moved on to the assistant. She stepped closer, touching my arm. Her nails were sharp. He doesn't love you, Josephine. He's obsessed with his legacy. You're just the vessel. The room spun. It made sense. It made too much sense. Why would a billionaire mafia boss want me? Why did he show up exactly when I texted about ovulating? Why did he move so fast? Why the rush? I need an heir. That's what he said in my apartment. We are compatible. He didn't say love back then. He said investment. The tears came hot and fast. The mascara Gwak Ga-ram had paid for was running down my cheeks. No, I choked out. I'm sorry, Doree whispered. I just couldn't let you walk into the trap without knowing. Take the money if you want, honey. But don't give him your heart. He doesn't have one to give back. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. I pushed past her. I have to go. Josephine, wait. I burst out of the bathroom. The noise of the party assaulted me. The laughter, the music, the clinking glasses, it all sounded like mocking now. I looked for Gwak Ga-ram. I saw him across the room, laughing at something the minister said. He looked so perfect. So untouchable. He monitored your data. He knew you were desperate. I felt sick. I felt used. It was Clemens all over again, but on a billion-dollar scale. Clemens used me for rent money. Gwak Ga-ram was using me for DNA. I couldn't face him. I couldn't look at him and wonder if every kiss, every touch, was just a calculated move to get me into bed during my fertility window. I turned and ran toward the exit. Miss Stowell. BMC's voice called out from somewhere behind me. Hey, wait. I didn't wait. I hiked up my gold dress and ran. I ran past the doormen, past the paparazzi who were too slow to catch me, and out into the night air. It was pouring rain. The cold water soaked me instantly. My hair deflated. The silk dress clung to my skin. I didn't care. I just wanted to get away. Taxi. I screamed, waving my arm at a passing yellow cab. It screeched to a halt. I threw myself into the back seat. Drive, I sobbed. Just drive. Where to, lady? Anywhere. Just go. As the taxi pulled away, I looked out the back window. The doors of the hotel burst open. Gwak Ga-ram ran out. He wasn't walking coolly. He was sprinting. He didn't have an umbrella. He ran right into the rain, his burgundy suit turning black with water. He looked wild. Panic was etched all over his face. Josephine. I saw him scream my name. I saw him push a valet aside to get to his car. But the taxi turned the corner, and he disappeared from view. I collapsed against the sticky vinyl seat, sobbing into my hands. I had ruined everything. Or maybe I had just saved myself. My phone blew up instantly. Buzz. 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 Gwak Ga-ram, where are you? Gwak Ga-ram, Josephine, answer me. Gwak Ga-ram, BMC said you ran. What happened? Gwak Ga-ram, I am tracking your phone. Do not move. I stared at the messages through blurry eyes. I am tracking your phone. Of course he was. He tracked everything. My shopping. My ovulation. My location. Turn around, I told the driver. Huh? Turn around. I yelled. Take me to my old apartment. I need to get my things. I needed my passport. If I was going to run from the Korean mafia, I needed to leave the country. I needed to go home to my mom in Chicago. The driver grumbled but made a U-turn. It took 30 minutes to get to my old neighborhood. The rain was relentless. When we pulled up to my building, the windows were dark. Gwak Ga-ram had bought the building, but it was empty now. Clemens was gone. I paid the driver with the emergency cash I kept in my phone case, a habit from dating a broke boyfriend, and ran inside. I fumbled with my keys. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped them twice. Come on, come on. I got the door open. My apartment was cold. It smelled like stale wine and the ghost of my old life. I ran to the bedroom and grabbed my duffel bag again. I threw my passport in. I grabbed my old laptop. Creak. The floorboard in the living room creaked. I froze. Josephine. I spun around. Gwak Ga-ram was standing in my bedroom doorway. He was soaked. Water pooled around his expensive Italian loafers. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His chest was heaving, rising and falling like he had run all the way here. But it was his eyes that scared me. They weren't angry. They were devastated. "Why?" he rasped. "Why did you run?" "Stay away from me," I said, backing up until my legs hit the bed. "I know." "You know what?" He stepped into the room. "You know I love you?" "Stop it." I screamed. "Stop lying. I know about the will. I know about the clause. I know you tracked my cycle." Ga-ram stopped dead. His face went pale. "Who told you that?" Duri, I spat. "She showed me the contract. The surrogacy agreement." Ga-ram closed his eyes. He let out a breath that sounded like a growl. "Duri." He opened his eyes. They were blazing. "There is no contract, Josephine. There is no surrogacy agreement. She showed me the paper. She showed you a fake," he roared, stepping forward. "She forged it. To make you run. And you believed her. Why wouldn't I?" I cried, tears spilling over again. "Look at you, Ga-ram. You're a billionaire. You're a king. And I'm just the help. Why else would you want me? It has to be the baby. It has to be biology. Is that what you think?" He walked toward me. He didn't stop this time. I backed up until I fell onto the bed. He loomed over me, dripping wet, looking like a storm personified. "You think this is about a baby?" He grabbed my hand and slammed it against his chest, right over his heart. I could feel it beating, fast, erratic, terrified. "Feel that," he commanded. "Does that feel like business?" Ga-ram. "I tracked your cycle," he admitted, his voice breaking. "Yes, I did. Not because I wanted an heir, but because I wanted to know when you were lonely. I wanted to know when you were hurting. Because I am a stalker? Maybe. Or maybe because I have been obsessed with you since the day you walked into my interview room wearing a cheap blazer and a smile that knocked the wind out of me." He dropped to his knees in front of me. The mighty Chairman Gwak, kneeling on my dirty carpet in a wetsuit. "I don't care about the legacy," he whispered, grabbing my waist. "I don't care about the board. If you can't have children, I don't care. We will adopt. We will get dogs. I don't care." He looked up at me, his eyes shining with tears. "I just want you. In my bed. In my life. Yelling at me. Laughing at me. I just want you." I looked at him. I looked for the lie. I looked for the manipulation. But all I saw was a man who was terrified he had lost the only thing that mattered. Do you really love me?" I whispered. "Love." He laughed, a wet, broken sound. "Josephine, I would burn this city to ash just to keep you dry in the rain." He reached up and cupped my face. "Please," he begged. "Come home. Let me prove it. Let me show you that the text wasn't a mistake. It was fate." I looked at his lips. Rainwater was dripping from his nose. My anger melted. My fear dissolved. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay. Take me home, Ga-ram." He didn't wait. He surged forward. He didn't kiss me gently this time. He kissed me like he was starving. He kissed me like he was trying to breathe his soul into my body. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like an option. I felt like the destination. The ride back to the penthouse was a blur of rain, heated leather seats, and hands that couldn't stop touching. Ga-ram didn't let go of me for a second. Even as BMSU navigated the slick streets of Seoul, driving the Maybach like a tank, Ga-ram kept me pulled into his side. We were both soaking wet. My gold dress was ruined, heavy with rainwater. His burgundy suit was dark and clung to his shoulders. But neither of us cared. "You are shivering," he murmured, rubbing my arms briskly. "I'm okay," I whispered, resting my head on his damp shoulder. "I'm warm now. Not warm enough." He took out his phone. "BMSU. Turn the climate control to tropical. And call the penthouse staff. Tell them to leave. I want the place empty." BMSU glanced in the rearview mirror. He saw the way Ga-ram was looking at me, like I was a treasure he had almost dropped off a cliff. "Copy that, boss," BMSU said, a small, genuine smile playing on his lips. "I'll clear the perimeter. No interruptions. Not even if the president calls." "Especially if the president calls," Ga-ram said. When we arrived at the private elevator, Ga-ram didn't wait for the doors to open fully. He scooped me up into his arms. Ga-ram. I can walk. I laughed, breathless. You ran away from me tonight, he said, stepping into the elevator. I am not taking the chance of your legs deciding to do it again. The elevator shot up to the top floor. The doors opened to the penthouse. It was dark, save for the city lights glowing through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He carried me past the kitchen, past the living room, past the guest room where I had slept the night before. He walked straight to the double doors at the end of the hall, the master suite. He kicked the doors open. The room was massive. A king-sized bed dominated the space, covered in dark gray silk. A fireplace flickered in the corner, smart home tech automatically detecting our arrival. Ga-ram set me down on the edge of the bed. He stood between my legs, his hands resting on my thighs. He looked down at me, his eyes dark and serious. Josephine, he whispered. Are you sure? I looked at him. The man who bought a building for me. The man who knelt on my dirty carpet. The man who walked out of a government meeting because I sent a wrong text. I'm sure, I said. I don't want the guest room. Good, he growled. Because I burned the guest room key. He reached for the zipper of my dress. His fingers were cold from the rain, but they burned against my skin. He lowered the gold silk slowly. You are beautiful, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But you're freezing. He led me to the bathroom. It was like a spa. He turned on the shower, a massive rainfall head that steamed up instantly. He stripped off his wetsuit jacket, his tie, his shirt. I watched him. The scars he had mentioned, from his early days fighting for the syndicate, were there. Silver lines on his chest and ribs. They didn't make him look scary. They made him look like a survivor. We stepped into the steam. The water was hot. It washed away the rain, the fear, and the lies Dury had told me. Ga-ram washed my hair. He used the expensive Oribe shampoo sitting on the shelf, massaging my scalp with a tenderness that made my knees weak. Dury, he said suddenly, his hands pausing in my hair. She will never speak to you again. Ga-ram, don't hurt her, I said softly, water running down my face. I don't want violence. I won't touch her, he promised. But I own the bank that holds her family's debt. By tomorrow morning, the Choi family will be focusing very hard on bankruptcy restructuring. She won't have time to attend galas. I looked at him. You did that. I told you, he said, tilting my head back to rinse the suds. I protect what is mine. He turned off the water. He wrapped me in a towel that was thick, fluffy, and warmed by a heated rack. We walked back into the bedroom. The storm outside was raging against the glass, but inside, it was quiet. Ga-ram laid me back against the pillows. He hovered over me, bracing his weight on his elbows. The text, he whispered, brushing a wet curl off my forehead. My breath hitched. What about it? You said you were ovulating. I blushed, the heat rising to my cheeks. Ga-ram, that was. I was angry at Clements. I know, he said. His hand moved down to rest flat on my stomach. But was it true? I looked into his eyes. I saw the vulnerability there. The hope. Yes, I whispered. It was true. My app says, today is the peak day. Ga-ram's pupils blew wide. He let out a shaky breath. Then we have a schedule to keep, he murmured. He kissed me. It wasn't like a kiss in the rain. This was slow, deliberate. It was a worship. I am not doing this for an heir, he promised against my lips. I am doing this because I want a part of you to live forever. I love you, Ga-ram, I whispered. I love you, my queen. The lights of Seoul flickered below us as the storm knocked out the power grid for half the city. But in the penthouse, in the dark, we didn't need lights. We found each other just fine. 3 weeks later, the office was buzzing. The merger with T-Tech had gone through, and G-Corp stocks were at an all-time high. But that wasn't why people were whispering. They were whispering because of the massive diamond ring sitting on my left hand. I sat at my desk, which was still inside Ga-ram's office, typing up a memo. BM-soo was sitting on the couch, eating a bagel and scrolling through Instagram. So, BM-soo said with his mouth full, I heard Clements tried to sell his story to Dispatch. I froze. He did. Keyword, tried, BM-soo grinned. Boss bought the publishing company this morning. The story was killed. And Clements accepted a very generous job offer. A job offer? I asked. From G-Ram? Yep. Deep sea fishing. In Alaska. 3-year contract. No cell service. BMC winked. He leaves tonight. I shook my head, smiling. Alaska. He's going to hate the cold. He'll learn to love sweaters, BMC shrugged. Just then, the double doors opened. G-Ram walked in. He looked tired. He had been in meetings all morning, but the moment his eyes landed on me, his face transformed. The hard lines smoothed out. The Ice King melted. Josephine, he said, walking straight to me. He ignored BMC completely. He leaned down and kissed me right there over the desk. How are you feeling? He asked, his hand resting on my shoulder. I'm fine, I said quickly. Why? Your Aura ring data, he said, glancing at his phone. Your body temperature is elevated. And your resting heart rate is up by 5 beats per minute. I laughed. G-Ram, stop stalking my biometrics. Maybe I'm just stressed about the quarterly report. Or maybe, he said, narrowing his eyes, you need lunch. I ordered that spicy stew you like. It should be here in 10 minutes. The mention of the stew made my stomach flip. Not in a good way. A wave of nausea hit me so hard, I had to grab the edge of the desk. Josephine. G-Ram's voice sharpened instantly. What is it? Excuse me. I jumped up. I ran past him. I ran past BMC. I bolted into the private bathroom attached to his office. I locked the door and barely made it to the sink before I dry heaved. I splashed cold water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. My skin was glowing, but I felt exhausted. Elevated temperature. Higher heart rate. Nausea. My hand went to my stomach. No way, I whispered. It's too soon. I opened the cabinet under the sink. I bought a box of tests 3 days ago, just in case. I had hidden them behind the cleaning supplies because I knew G-Ram would find them if I left them out. My hands were shaking as I opened the box. 5 minutes later, I was sitting on the closed toilet lid, staring at the little white stick. 2 lines. Dark. Bold. Undeniable. I started to cry. Not sad tears. Terrified, happy, overwhelming tears. Knock. Knock. Josephine. G-Ram's voice was frantic on the other side. I am giving you 3 seconds to open this door or I am kicking it down. BMC has the medic on the line. I stood up. I wiped my eyes. I took a deep breath. I unlocked the door. G-Ram burst in. He looked ready to fight a ghost. He grabbed my shoulders. Are you hurt? Is it food poisoning? Did Duri try to poison your coffee? I shook my head. I couldn't speak. I just held up the stick. G-Ram froze. He looked at the stick. He looked at me. He looked back at the stick. The most feared man in Seoul. The man who controlled shipping lanes and silenced enemies with a whisper. He stared at that plastic stick like it was an alien artifact. Is that? His voice cracked. Is that a yes? I nodded. It's a yes. G-Ram let out a sound I had never heard before. It was a half laugh, half sob. He fell to his knees. He wrapped his arms around my waist and buried his face in my stomach. His expensive suit ruined the bathroom tile. Thank you, he sobbed into my dress. Thank you, thank you. I ran my fingers through his hair. You're going to be a dad, G-Ram. He looked up at me. His eyes were red. He was smiling so wide it looked painful. I'm going to be a father, he repeated. And you're stuck with me forever now. I know, I smiled. I read the contract. Epilogue, 5 years later. The penthouse wasn't quiet anymore. It was never quiet. Appa, look. A 4-year-old girl with curly hair and G-Ram's fierce eyes was running across the marble floor. She was wearing a tutu and holding a plastic sword. I see you, Minji. G-Ram called out. He was on his hands and knees, crawling behind the sofa. But can you defeat the dragon? He roared, and Minji shrieked with delight, attacking him with the plastic sword. I stood in the doorway of the kitchen, leaning against the frame. I was holding our 6-month-old son, Taeho, on my hip. G-Ram caught the plastic sword with one hand and fell over dramatically, letting Minji climb onto his chest to claim victory. I yield, he laughed, holding his hands up. The princess is too strong. He looked over at me. His hair was messy. His shirt was untucked. He looked happier than I had ever seen him. He winked at me. I checked the time. 8 p.m. Bedtime. Okay, warriors, I announced. Dragon slaying is over. Bath time. New. Minji groaned. Yes, Ga-ram said, sitting up and scooping her onto his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Listen to Yama. She is the queen. We obey the queen. It took an hour to get them down. Minji needed 3 stories, and Taeho needed to be rocked until he fell into a milk coma. Finally, the house was quiet. I walked into the living room. Ga-ram was pouring 2 glasses of wine. He handed me one. Peace at last, he sighed, sitting on the sofa and pulling me into his lap. They have your energy, I said, resting my head on his chest. It's exhausting. They have your heart, he kissed my forehead. That is what matters. He took a sip of wine. His phone buzzed on the table. He frowned. Who is texting at this hour? He picked it up. He looked at the screen. Then he looked at me. A slow, wicked smirk spread across his face. What? I asked. He turned the screen to me. It was a text from me. I had sent it from the nursery 5 minutes ago. Me, the kids are asleep. And my app says I'm not ovulating, but I'm free for the next 20 minutes. Ga-ram put the phone down. He set the wine glass on the table. 20 minutes, he challenged, standing up and pulling me with him. Josephine, you insult me. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. Can't make the deadline? He swept me off my feet, carrying me toward the bedroom. For you, he whispered against my neck. I've got all night. Thanks for watching this story. If you enjoyed Ga-ram and Josephine's romance, please hit that like button and subscribe for more mafia romance stories. And let me know in the comments, would you have forgiven him for tracking the ovulation app? I'll see you in the next video.